RJ Jullienne.
And Dale, the coach, Eggleton.
And once again, we'll be talking to one of the guys who we've known for a long time, a stellar career in rugby league and coaching, Tony Clarke. But before we get to that, we'd like to thank our Sports Wrap sponsors, Central Coast Locksmiths, Eggleton Bowling Club and Berkeley Vale Cellars. And Coach, as we mentioned, a guy that's been in rugby league what seems like several decades and has got a career that you'd be extremely proud of, not only as a player, but as a coach.
Yes, certainly, RJ. He's made an imprint on Central Coast Rugby League, not only as a player, but also as a coach. And also as a coach at the North Sydney Bears, the Manly Sea Eagles and the Newcastle Knights. He's made a great impression on the development of many young players that's still in the game today.
Absolutely. It's a very big warm welcome to Tony Clarke. Clarke, great to see you, mate. You're looking well.
Good on you, RJ. Thank you, Dale, for that very kind introduction.
Mate, as a player, St Edwards, Gosford Townies, and represented the Central Coast, the under-18s, way back in 1981. President's Cup with North Sydney and Parramatta before your career was cut short by injury and marriage. That's a big call, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we started a long time ago, being born and bred in Gosford. We went to St Edwards College. Well, in those days, you went to St Patrick's Primary School to 4th class, and then went over to St Edwards 5th and 6th class. So naturally, we played some footy there. I went to the mighty Townies. I was thinking on the way in. I think it would have been under 14s because we ran out of some players retired or went disappeared. So a couple of us went to Gosford, and I had some wonderful memories there with the Townies.
Well, Clarke, RJ's tried to race through your playing career very quickly there.
I was going to get more to it later.
When you were at the Gosford Townies, they were very strong in first grade. Some of the players that were there, I know they won a premiership in '87 there just before your senior years, but did they have an impression on you in your development years?
Oh, they did. There were some legends in the game, and I suppose like all sports back then, Dale, it was pretty high profile, the rugby league. When we had the Central Coast Express, and of course, 2GO doing the match of the day and different things with the mighty RJ there and Bobby Sharman and Darryl Oosley and Dennis Smith and so it was very high profile, and I just all I wanted to do was play first grade at the Gosford Townies. Peter Hall, the Prince of Centres on the Central Coast, was my hero. Trevor Binskin, Gary Suter, Darryl Turner, and we were also, the competition then did see a lot of call them NRL players coming up to be captain coaches. So it was a very exciting time for Central Coast footy.
Mate, we've known you as a coach for a long time, but as a player, what position were you in your playing days as a young Clarke?
As a young Clarke, I started in the forwards, but then couldn't put on weight. Not like these days, RJ. I went to first grade. My first grade game was in 1981, and we played the Wyong Roos up there. I debuted up there, and I was only 17, I think, and did get towed up a couple of times by Quinny and the boys, but in a very fair way. But so I sort of migrated out to the centres wing, outside back, and probably prolonged my career for a couple of years.
Was there pace to burn, mate, out there?
Not so much that, mate. I used to, I'd make a break and get caught pretty quickly.
Well, Clarke, RJ spoke about the 81, so you made the Central Coast under-18s, and we talked about the quality and the standard of rugby league on the Central Coast then. Tell us some of the players that were in that side and how far you progressed in the country championships.
Yeah, so that was 1981 was the formation year of the Central Coast Division. We were always Group 12 and part of Southern Division.
Yep.
If you represented, you went down to the Southern Division area and played there. It was very exciting to in 81 form to form the division and certainly be a standalone area. They had back in those days the under-18 country championship was over a long weekend, the June long weekend. So it was a tough weekend. You played up at Mount Penang, and I remember playing it there on the road when we had the headlights on for our semi-final. Just a great time. We did make the semis. A little bit unlucky not to progress. Western Division beat us, but we played with some magnificent. Greg Clements, who went on to have an illustrious career.
Sure.
With the Penrith Panthers, Steve Livesley, Mark Ransley, Neil Robinson, who career was cut short with injury. there was just some talent everywhere, and a great lot of fellas too. We were coached by Neil Nicol, who was ahead of his time. Back I remember standing there. I think I'd probably credit Neil a little bit with my interest in coaching. And again, we can go a little bit later with Paul Broughton when he came up, and I think he coached the '82 first grade representative team. And I just used to sit and watch, and Neil was, as I said, was ahead of his time, with how we approached the game.
Yeah, we'll get to all the coaching very shortly, but after a couple of years after the representative, you played President's Cup with North Sydney, your first connection with them, but you've had a long and illustrious connection with the Bears, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. It was Parramatta. I played the President's
Cup. Pretty close.
Yeah, no, you were.
Sydney.
Parramatta, North Sydney. It's very close. So, in those days, they used to send, which I suppose we do now too, but, they'd send the scouts out and watch us. I went down with Shane Rawlings, and we had a couple of offers to go elsewhere, but we settled on Parramatta, and what a time to... I used to turn up at Granville Oval and just stand there, and there's Mick Cronin and Peter Sterling, and Price, and so it was a great time to be part of it. Back in those days, the President's Cup was an under-19 competition, and it probably went for half the year. Finished before June 30th, so you were able to come back to your local club, which was, me was the Gosford Townies.
Well, Clarke, you mentioned the Parramatta, those names. Who did you support when you were a young bloke? Did you have a team you supported? And a hero? We all have the poster up on our wall or behind our bedroom door. Who was your hero, and what team did you follow as a youngster?
Always Parramatta, because we were, Mum and Dad were born and bred in the Parramatta area. Nan and Granddad lived at Granville because I couldn't get a job up here, so I went down. Did my first 2 years of plumbing. With G&S Plumbing, he was Dad's best friend, the great Greg Florin, and so we've always been Parramatta people, and I think undoubtedly I think Mick Cronin, was I wanted to be him, he was and such a great fella off the field, like a wonderful player, but probably a better person off the field, and but it was because you train. All together, so it was quite incredible. Jack, again, Jack Gibson needs no introduction, but it was incredible to be running around, Granville Park, with Sterlo's passing you the footy. Steve Yeller, who I still see now, and just ornaments to the game.
Absolutely. All right, after a couple of years back on the coast, 2 years with the Arimba Magpies, injury ended your playing career. What was the injury, mate? And I know you got married around that. What was the injury that curtailed your playing career?
I think your name was Kerry Clarke.
Was it a stiff arm?
Well, I came back. So we had a really successful year. I left Gosford to go to Arimba in '86 with Kenny Kelly, who I met through Ken played a lot of first grade with Manly as a front rower. And Harry Raven was coach, who I'd known previously. He came up with Paul Broughton as a rep coach in the early '80s, and I just thought it was time for a change, and I went up the highway a little bit to the Magpies, and it was great. We made the semi-finals for the first time in I think 50 years, RJ. So it was a great time. And then Pete Louie came knocking and took me to Parramatta in '87, and the injuries started out at Penrith Park. Bloody Darryl Broman landed on me.
That's not good.
My knee was my knee was never the same, and I wasn't playing well, so we sort of worked out that I'll probably come back to the coast, when the season started. But I've got to be honest, I hurt my ankle, and I sort of probably had most of '87 off. Got married at the end of '87. And then we built the house in '88, and I think having that time out didn't do me any good because I came back in '89 with just the injuries just kept catching up. We were laughing the other night. The Daryl Harrison, who's well known to everyone on the case, the Harrison family. We were doing a passing drill, and he landed on top of me, and I couldn't move. So I thought, it's time to pull the pin. And working for myself as a subcontractor plumber. We had a thing called a mortgage, and a beautiful little girl, Danica Ann Clarke, was born in 1990. So I hobbled up the stairs at Terrigal in our first house, and the look on Kerry's face told me that my career was finished.
Yes, I know that feeling, Clarke. But you certainly left an imprint. It would have been hard to leave the Gosford Townies and go to Ourimbah. I know that. And at Parramatta, you were saying Peter Louis attracted you, but you also had John Money down there. So I had a good Central Coast influence down there, and they were still going through that golden era.
Oh, they were. You know, like I met Brian Jackson down there, of course, the great centre. Brian's a champion fella. The coast connection was very strong, and it was probably a little different then because it was a really designated reserve grade side, and they were looking for outside backs. And Pete's a champion fellow that and a great coach. You know, as we know, he had an illustrious career once he went to the Bears. And having John there, so yeah, there was a really strong Central Coast connection with the Earls.
All right, we'll get back to Tony Clarke, our Victory Wrap podcast, but let's mention one of the sponsors, give them a wrap at the same time. Central Coast Locksmiths, now a bigger and better location on Racecourse Road, Gosford, so better lock that in. Central Coast Locksmiths, they are master locksmiths, security engineers and consultants, a huge range of transponders, car and house keys, commercial and personal safes, mobile vans that come to you, and their 7-day emergency service. So better lock in Central Coast Locksmiths. New address, Racecourse Road, Gosford, opposite the entertainment grounds, and ready to help you open, start, shut and lock. Give them a call, 4323 1534.
So, Clarke, the playing career comes to an end. It's always hard to navigate those years after you've been involved as a player and made so many friendships along the way. When did the coaching seed start to be sown, and where did that all start?
Well, it started, it was funnily enough, my brother-in-law, Scotty Farrell, was playing with Gosford Juniors. We used to train at Maiden's Brush, and their coach, that was the under-15 team, so that would have been either 90 or 91, and they needed a coach, so I said, this will do me. Mm-hmm. So I went and did that, loved it, and then was very fortunate. Dave Warwick, who's very well known on the Central Coast, is a very good footballer, and of course as a talent scout or recruitment.
Yes,
RJ, yeah, he does a great job. Wok was at Norths, so he rang and said, "Mate, I'm looking for an assistant coach. Can you come down?" So it's sort of. I probably look back, Dale. I think I went too quick. I think I probably should have had a little more experience with a couple of higher grades on the coast because it all happened so quickly. You know, you're down there again with and the Bears were on a pretty good trajectory in those days. You know, so yeah, but it was a great time.
At your initial years, you mentioned you might have started a bit early. When you're going in and you're starting to tell these guys strategies and selections and stuff, was it a bit over awesome? Was it like awe-inspiring, or was it a bit of a what do I do from here? How do I go?
I think RJ, just after, and it was just dealing with a different, like, because they were elite athletes, where I've sort of come from the kids, you're lucky to get them to training, you have to do things. So yeah, and I probably got a little ahead of myself. I'll be 100% honest in the fact that I was there. But they soon knocked it out of you. and I worked again with some great coaches there, like of course Dave, and then Kelly Egan, Les Kiss was a great mentor.
Now in line for the Wallabies.
Yes, yeah. Paul Conlon. It was a great club to be part of, and again we certainly were developing a lot of. I fought tooth and nail to keep Matty Orford there. I took him down. Matt was knee high to a grasshopper. Made sure that they re-signed him because he was, and his career speaks for itself. But they were a great club to be part of at that time. Again, you look back now with Billy Moore, who was still in contact with Gary Larson, Flo, of course, Johnny MacArthur. It was a great time.
Well, Clarke, throughout your playing career, you come into meet a lot of coaches, have an influence on you when you're starting to form your own coaching philosophies and the way you want to coach. But that was a great introduction to coaching because you're all eyes and all ears. And when you come back to the Central Coast, you bring that experience with you. And you come back to a young club then, the Berkeley Vale Panthers. Tell us about your time there with Rocky Melrose.
Yeah, well, after the 5 years with the Bears, the opportunity came to coach reserve grade under Paul, who we again played with and against a lot, Paul. Again, an ornament to the game on the coast. So it was an exciting time for the Panthers. You know, it was a great time. Again, the transition from 16, 17, 18-year-olds to grown men took a little while to get used to. A few of them still give it to me now about how I was. But it was a couple of great years there, you know, and I took plenty out of it. When you look back and look at the notes you kept, there was certainly some areas that we could have improved on. But I think we say that all the time, don't we? That when you look back, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But they really great, and Paul's a wonderful coach. Unfortunately, they probably overachieved a bit in those days. So financially it made it very hard for them. But they're certainly credit to the people involved now that they're still in first grade. So. Yeah, but a great time at the Panthers.
And a great time for you, mate, I think, when you went to the Waterway Roosters, 1999 to 2002, first grade premiers, 2 second grade premierships. And I remember seeing a photo when they won the country championship. So the Roosters were an absolute elite club, not just on the coast back then, but in New South Wales.
Yeah, we were. It was a wonderful time. Alan Emery, he's on the podium as the best coaches to be involved in Central Coast footy, and the opportunity to go and work with Alan for a couple of years before he retired was immense, and again just such a well-run club, with Richard, Dickie Smithers, Jeff McMahon, Peter Reid, Dave Carr. Bobby Nash. It was just such a well-run club. I know they had the Leagues Club behind them, but they were so responsible with their payments, and they just created. We've still got a chat group now, with the 99 boys, that we talk. We get together every Christmas, So it's it was a very, very special time, to be part of the Roosters and to win the inaugural. We beat Wild. We beat them 15-14, I think. Shane Ward kicked the field goal, and funnily enough, Shane Hayne was referee of the final. Of the New South Wales Country Championship. So it was a great concept. We went to we played at Moree, we played out on the Gold Coast, and then we played West Newcastle. So it's a terrific concept from New South Wales Rugby League.
Well, I know Al Emery too, Clarke, and what a football brain he had, and certainly you would have taken plenty of that. When you started in the formation of the Central Coast Rip, you were there for 4 years. Tell us about that time and the coaches you work with and some of the players that come through that time.
Yeah, again, though, I think we stepped too far too early. I think, again, looking back on that, I mean, I worked very closely with the great Keith Onslow.
Yes.
Who come down from was such a integral part of the development of the Newcastle Knights, from the get-go. And then we came down and we shouldn't have run a Jersey Fleet team. We should have been happy with the Harold Matts and the under 15s and the under the 15s and the 17s. But we give it our best shot because it was very difficult to keep the kids on the coast. The bright lights were always there, and of course financially. There was some silly offers being made by, the different NRL clubs. So we did lose a hell of a lot of players, but we certainly, worked hard to put a competitive team together. And I think when we put some, would have been because I had Timmy Moulton, Luke McGuinness, Bodie O'Connell, that we were able to keep on the coast, and we missed the playoffs by 1 win. Which was, a very, very, that was 2006 actually. So really exciting year. And a lot of those guys went on to have, great careers in the NYC or Timmy, had a wonderful NRL career with the West Tigers. So it was a lot of hard work, but we could see the fruits of our labour, certainly, or the green shoots, certainly starting to appear in 2006.
All right, 2007 and 09, the green shoots of Manly appeared, and you've gone down to coach the SG Ball team. Des Hasler, head coach, one of the enigmatic characters, I think, of rugby league for a long time. Clarke, tell us what it was like working with Des.
Yeah, he was probably one of the best humans I've ever met. Des Hasler, just an absolute champion fella, and it's such an exciting time to be part of Manly when the opportunity came up. Again, it was through Dave Warwick, because Dave was their recruitment manager, and he rang, and after 4 years with a rip, I probably sort of squeezed the lemon dry, and of course, to coach it at such a prestigious club was something that I jumped at, and we had a great time down there. Des Tooves, Noel Cluel took a little bit to get Crush on side. But I did in the end. Again, it was such an exciting time to be part of the Sea Eagles.
Well, Clarke, in that first year at Manly, you get a phone call that changes you and your family's life forever. The fatal accident of your eldest child, your daughter Danica. How did you navigate that?
I don't know, but I do know that without rugby league, I would have. I don't know where I would have ended up, and that's Nathan and I, my son. I have no idea. The game, as the Central Coast community did, just put their arms around him, and Des rang every day. To do. There was a huge contingent at Danica's celebration. And it's always something that is stuck with me. And they did the next year. They grabbed hold of me and gave me a job, and we were part of the NYC. And there's still just I don't know. It's 18 years ago since we lost Danica. It was only last Thursday was our anniversary. So, but. I think, and it'd be any sport, Dale, whether it be football, rugby league, whether it's surfing. Sport has something about it that just grabs hold of you and makes sure you're okay. So it was. It's not easy now. It's not easy now. When they said 18 years, and it feels like 18 months, or it could be 18 days. There's not a day goes past that you don't think about it. Not have a chat to her. So. Rugby league is a very special sport in what they did for us, and I'll be forever grateful for it.
Clarke, and of course, out of that, you formed the Danica Clarke Foundation, and what it's done for so many young sportsmen and women over the years has been phenomenal. And I think it's been a feather in your and Kerry's cap, and all the people that have formed the committee, and how you've helped young sportsmen and women go to places and compete, not just on the coast but all over the country.
Yeah, we were so fortunate, to be able to keep celebrating Danica in that way. She was, she just loved the sport. Touch footy, Oztag, soccer, and of course her surf lifesaving. And when we sort of take time, we took time as a board, only probably 6 months ago, just to reflect on what we have achieved on the coast. I think it's, I'll stand corrected, but I think it's like 36 or 37 sports, 120 kids that have come through the foundation, and we're close enough to 400,000 in grants, which is quite incredible. But we only recently did our class of 25 intake up at Mingara, and it just blows me away, the talent that is on the coast and the diversity of the talent. Yeah. From Matty Graham, snow skier, to Nicola, to our surfers. We've had Molly and Talia Webb, and we've had a first. We've got a skater, a street skater.
Right.
Is part of our
not ray gun
family now. Yeah, no, not ray gun. So but it is. It's a lot of work, but we have a wonderful board of directors. Dale, headed by Gary Mensforth, Michael Butner, Beck Rodwell, Greg Ferguson, who's been a revelation with our sponsorship arrangements. Our number one scholarship holder, Chris Dodd, has joined the board, and of course Stevie Allen, is and Jess Mensforth, who looks after all our socials. So it's a family. I call it the mafia. Once you're in, you never get out. It is, and I think we were talking off air about Nicola's achievements. Our high jumper, and the thing she's always said is that we were there when no one else was. She was having trouble with injuries, trouble with with a few other things, and we gave her the airfare to go to Hungary, and the rest is history.
Well, if it's okay with you and the humble Tony Clarke, we'll get back to you and we'll speak more about the foundation at the end, Clarke. We'll get back. You went from Manly to the Newcastle Knights. Tell us how that came about.
Well, Nathan was playing. He had a very lucrative offer from the Knights through Craig Sandercock, who's now the current football manager at the Wallaroos. Sandy they were very keen to Rick Stone to get Nath up for the NYC, and I was on his coattails. Mick Crawley, I think the Crawley family, of course, the brother of Steve, who runs Fox. The Crawley family are so well known on the Central Coast, and Mick was coaching the NYC, the under-20s under Wayne, and he rang and he said, "Well, mate, I need someone to help me," and up we went. So a couple of great years with them. Unfortunately, didn't end that well with the Tinkler episode. Tinkler's it's taken the Knights a little while to find their feet. So there was sort of with their financial constraints, there was just no room. They cut the staff to the bare minimum. But great time at the Knights, and also to be able to watch Wayne apply his magic was something that I'll remember forever.
All right, we're back with Tony Clarke and our sports podcast very shortly. Eggleton Bowling Club, amazing April going on. Their Easter raffle's been on, and people have won stacks of Easter baskets, character eggs for the kiddies. And then a day to remember, Anzac Day, April 25. It's a Friday at the club. Today starts with a flag raising ceremony at 1:15. Then you can enjoy a free sausage sizzle, live entertainment and club raffles. Anzac Day, all part of an awesome April at Eggleton Bowling Club. And for all that's on, just go to eggletonbowlingclub.net.
So, Clarke, your coaching career and development continues. You go back to Manly again under a different system, a different coaching staff. Tell us what that was like.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Working, I worked with Dave Penner and David Heath with the NYC with those, what was that, 9, 10 and 11. And then, or 8, 9, 10, sorry. We worked together, and then Dave took on the job as head coach, David Heath. And again, he rang and said, "Mate, if you're not doing anything, I'd love to get you down." So it was working under Jeff Toobs. I love Toobs, the passion and the spit and the throwing into the but just again a wonderful man, a wonderful man. And it was good. Brad Arthur was Jeff's assistant, so to sit in the box and again watch how Brad went around things. Who's you always knew he was going to be a head coach somewhere, and that was proven. So great time. We had a good year, because we had the Jake and Tommy coming through, and there's so many of the players that we developed, or not developed, but that have gone on, to full-time NRL careers. So it was great. They're having a little bit of trouble with the juniors, so I went back to SG Ball in 2014. Not so much trouble, but Toos was looking for just to improve their coaching areas. So I went back to SG Ball. But unfortunately, I didn't get on. I can't think of the bloke's name, but I didn't get on with him.
That's probably why you can't remember it.
Yeah, no, I probably can't. Steve Healy or someone like that. Anyway, I don't know whether we're allowed to say that, but we just clashed because he had different ideas. I took Nicholas Hines down.
Right.
Yeah. So, and he just had a set against Nico, and I couldn't see it. I said, this kid's going to play NRL. So didn't end great, but still, I look back and it's just wonderful memories, with the Seagulls.
And before we get to the part when you go to Wyong, all the coaches that you've been with, been opposed against, is there a couple that really stick in your mind that had a big influence on you as a coach, Clarke?
Jason Taylor, with my years with the Bears, especially the last 4 years that I've had with them.
Mm-hmm.
JT he's an odd human. But he won't mind me saying it. But he's one. I can see why Canterbury are doing well. He's one of the smartest football guys. I'd sit there and go, "Wow, how'd you see that?" And just how we played, and I got on really well with JT, and I loved it. But again, even like working with Mick Crawley, who's an NRL coach, he's down with Ricky now. He's been down there for the last probably 4 or 5 years with the Raiders. Dave Penner was a great coach. A lot depends, and Dale, a lot depends whether the door will open for you too.
Mhm.
You know, like Dave Penner he's an NRL coach. You know, definitely. Mick's the same. Mick Crawley, he could coach NRL standing on his head. But he didn't like the media part of it, which was, and it's a lot like players, you know, you get that little opportunity, you've really got to take it. But yeah, no, JT, and then watching Des, you know, such a man manager. Wayne was funny. You know, he'd turn up Saturday morning at Newcastle Uni, look through his old exercise book and go, oh yeah, we did this in '99. We'll do that this morning. You know, there was sort of
It worked.
RJ, it worked. Yeah, and it's still working now.
Yeah.
But he was such a wonderful man manager. You know, and Rick Stone's a great coach too. You know, so yeah, I've been very fortunate.
Yeah,
I think that's so true what you say, Clarke, about, you know, you've got to evolve as a coach because of the times. You know, the games change in all different sports, but old school things certainly still work today, and that's what a lot of coaches look at. You know, they look at things not only on the field but off the field as well. You get the opportunity to go to the Warangaroos, and it's the first opportunity. You're the head coach. You're taking over the running of the whole system. What are the first things you were looking to put in place when you went to the Warangaroos that were Tony Clarke's?
I think for the one club philosophy, like we really needed, and don't forget I was with Rip too. You know, Rip Taylor, who's an outstanding coach and a great fellow. And of course we had the partnership with the Sydney Roosters, which was a wonderful time in the club's history. But we worked really hard on the one club philosophy, so the under sevens could identify with a local first grade. You know, we had a lot of initiatives where we were having everyone needed a sense of belonging. You know, when we'd invite, you know, the under 8s, the under 9s, the under 10s, like we'd have someone different at training every night. They could come and spend game day with us.
Great
and
idea.
it was a very, very successful time for the Roos because it was like I get, you know, people talk about money. Sure, you know, we were able to pay, you know, a good wage for the players. But again, I think Rip and I debuted more local juniors than anyone has in their history because we identified them early and put the work into them. And you know what it's like. You know, community footy is so important to have that local, you know, content because, you know, they bring mum and dad, they bring the girlfriends, they bring nan and pop, and you know they bring them through the gate. So yeah, great time, so exciting. You know, to be in the partnership with the Roosters. Worst decision in my opinion that Wyong ever made because it was just growing and growing and growing. But it's funny going back to your question. Well, not question, but when you said how you have to evolve, unfortunately, and don't get me wrong, you know, like the founding fathers of Wyong have been wonderful, but they couldn't evolve. You know, they just couldn't work out that. You know, I think we did a presentation to the board, and there was, you know, with all the socials, there was like 175,000 hits following Wyong.
Yeah.
You know, but they just couldn't grasp it. You know, the times have changed. You know, we might only have 100 or 200 people watching us, but the exposure of the Wyong club was immense. You know, and it was a disappointing time because I look now because the Roosters are doing a wonderful job on the coast, but I look now we could have had everything. You know, from New South Wales Cup to Jersey Flag, SG Ball, and of course the women's game. You know, based at Wyong out of such a wonderful facility. But yeah, it is what it is. I know that it knocked Rip around a lot when the rug was pulled upon him, and you know, but we certainly a lot of good times. But I look back and think, you know, wow, some of the decisions made.
But mate, you look at your time there, 4 grand finals, the Premiership 2016. I know I was there at Woy Woy Oval, a 20-0 win over the old club that you were with decades ago, Woy Woy. That would have been an absolute highlight for you as a coach. Yeah, it certainly was. You know, to be able to win one with the Roos was something that I treasure. The other two, I think, Rick, I and I'm not talking about myself, but to do, I don't think any, and I'll throw the coach over here. It doesn't matter what level you are, to be able to continually make, you know, win a minor premiership and then be part of a grand final is a lot of work. And we were doing it with different squads, you know, every year because there was retirements or they move on. And yeah, so I do, you know,
would have liked to win a couple more, but I've certainly got to look at it and go, well, it was, I think we were minor, out of the 5 years I was there, we were minor premiership 4, finished second, the 3 times won one and got beat in the first year, the longest game in Central Coast history when
I think I remember that.
Yeah, remember the mighty King Cumber Colts.
That's right.
It was a 100-minute game.
Yeah, there was extra time.
Extra time. So, yeah, but no, a great time, and again, made some lifelong friends, with the Roos.
Well, Clarke, to sustain that, it is the footprint you make. It's those early development things that yourself and Rib put in places. That's how you sustain that record that you just spoke about. And you also left a legacy behind that they've been able to continue on with the Wyong Roos. But you didn't, one door shut, another door opened, which has seemed to have been the way you've worked through your life as well. North Sydney, they want you back. Jason Taylor is the head coach down there. Those 3 years working under Jason Taylor as head coach of the SG Ball, what were they like, especially coming out of COVID as well?
Yeah, a very tough time with that. Of course, I have regret. Well, it wasn't our fault with COVID because I did go to Kincumber when it fell apart at Wyong and we moved on. But of course, we didn't get any games played. Paul Stringer rang me because Paul was part of JT's staff, and he said, "Mate, we're looking for an SG Ball coach." And I thought, yeah, why not? And it was just three great years. Tough. I think they hadn't won a game for 5 or 6 years. So
wow.
it wasn't going to be an easy job. First year was very difficult. We copped a couple of beatings because there is a real presence now around SG Ball, the under-19 comp, that the bigger clubs, are putting a lot of effort into developing their kids. So it's a quality competition. But second year we won one, which was very exciting, and then the third year we won 3. So yeah, and there's it's so satisfying at the moment when I look at the Jersey flag. I think we've got 10 of the kids over the various clubs, playing Jersey flag that have come through the Bears. So yeah, no, it was a great time, and as I said, working with JT is something that, as I said, blew me away with his knowledge on how to play the game.
When you look at your time, Clarke, at North Sydney with the SG Ball, the squad you had, what do you remember some of the players moving on to and where they've reached now? Is there some that come to mind?
Yeah, we had a young fella, Bradley Avery, he was a rugby union player from New Zealand, and Brad paid his own airfare over, came over. I'd pick him up at Pennant Hills every day because we were training out at the Kenthurst Grammar School out of Dural.
Nice and close?
Yeah, nice and close. Yeah, that was a good drive. A bit easier than getting to North Sydney Oval though, at 4 o'clock on a Wednesday. But so Bradley, he was just a kid that nothing stood in his way to make it in rugby league. So he's had 2 good years with Melbourne, and Parramatta have signed him. So Bradley's forming a very strong. So yeah, it's something that, because I just admired, like, he was on his own. His parents were still in New Zealand, and he just did. He was, some of the places he lived were I got him out of one actually, and we put him in a better accommodation. But yeah, just the drive and determination. So I'm really hoping that the next step is not too far away for him.
Well, TC, speaking about that fire and determination, it's still in you. You're now the representative coach, Central Coast Division. Tell us what's that been like under limited resources, Central Coast.
Yeah, sorry, Dale. It has been. I came in when we finished at Norths, and I came in and Shane Wooden was divisional coach, but Shane, and I don't blame him, in shape, manner or form, it just got too hard. Because it was just so hard. There was such a fracture within the division. I took it on. I think the first training session I went to, we had 2 players turn up. Oh. We had Joey Besgrave and Jake Woods. And I thought, geez, what have I got myself in for here? Rang around. Dane Allen, DA's been outstanding. Got him involved with the Erina boys. And then once we put a little bit of integrity in the program, it was easier to attract them. So we drew Newcastle, going back to 24, we drew Newcastle round 1 and they're just a juggernaut, as we all know, and I think we got beat 24-12. Very credible performance. And then we sort of, Mal Fitzgerald, the program manager, who's again just passionate rugby league man and very knowledgeable in what he does, Mal. We sort of got together and said, well, let's try and put a bit of professionalism in it. Very difficult with the division. I know they've gone through some changes recently, but there's certainly some areas that can improve there. But again, something that I love doing, back in the day, that's all I wanted to do was represent your area and to put the pride in these young men about it is really, because word's got out, Dale, that it is something worth to be part of. Another initiative I did was bring some old boys in. Tony Koval, Kenny Kelly, Jason Carpenter, Hayden Berry, Richard Berry, Matty Sharman. We had a very emotional jumper presentation with the late Darren Nielsen's family. Young Zaid was our 9. Sandra and the girls came in and presented it to him. So just something, and of course Jake's dad Trevor, who I played a lot with and against. Just to show them, for them to have a sense of belonging and that it is, an important part of Central Coast footy.
Our fascinating podcast with Tony Clarke, will be back to that in about 30 seconds. If you love being a local, you'll also love Berkeley Vale Cellars, your true local liquor store that's been supporting local sport for over 10 years, and right now some great members specials, 20% off 6 bottles of wine, 10% off any 2 spirits, best selection of craft beers, all your favourite mainstream brands. Come and reward yourself at Berkeley Vale Cellars, Lakeage Avenue, Berkeley Vale, part of the local Legends group. Berkeley Vale Cellars, your true local legend, like the guy we're talking to. Hey.
Clarke, they're great initiatives, and it's been positive feedback. I've spoken to players that were involved in the program this year, and they were excited about the development made and how, you went close in that game against Newcastle this year. It's important you keep your finger on your pulse. If hopefully you do stay in that position. I think it's a positive move for Central Coast Divisional Rugby League to have Tony Clarke at the helm of that side. You're the coaching director out at Arimba. Not only are you working there, but you're getting to see firsthand the players that are involved in the game on the Central Coast week to week.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's been interesting at the Magpies, because this is the first time in 5 years they've been back in first grade. So some wonderful people, involved up there. Steve Dawson, the Walshaw brothers, Johnny Comans, Warwick Faint. There's some wonderful people there, and again, I said if I'm going to put my name to it, that it has to be a sustainable program. We have to be very financially responsible, which they are, because we want the Magpies as a foundation club, to be here for the next 20 years. So, it is interesting, and it's great. Again, another initiative that went down a treat this year was we brought the emerging coasties in, coached by Ryan Hall, the son of Peter Hall. Ryan's a terrific up-and-coming young coach. Won the premiership with the Terrible 19s last year. So what we did with the young players that weren't involved in rep programs, whether it be with the Roosters or somewhere else, we got them in, kitted them out, and gave them a feel for what community representative program can be about, and the feedback on that has been wonderful. They played a game against against the Roosters, SG Ball and Jersey Fleet team down at Woy Woy on when we played North Coast. So it was just a great initiative, and I was watching a lot of them play yesterday actually with the minor Arimba under 19s, and there's a few things happening, but to get around, if we're going to do it again, I don't know whether they want me to do it again. But if they do, it's certainly, we'll be getting out and about and checking on the progress of everyone.
Clarke, being a coach for so long, you'd be first-hand or from a distance politics in rugby league, politics with a club. You've probably experienced it first-hand. How do you negotiate your way around it? Is it time that you go, look, there's too much happening behind the scenes, I'm out? Or I can see my way getting through the politics of what's going on and try not to rip the club apart?
Yeah, interesting question. I think I mean, we all I know Jack. What did Jack used to say? What was his best advice to a young coach? Always rent, don't buy. And you always know that you're not going to be there forever.
Great line.
Woi was an easy transition for us because we sort of both come to an end. After the 4 years, I didn't coach great that 2002, and it was easy. We sat down with Reedy and Dickie Smithers and Kari, and we sort of looked at each other and said, yeah, well, we're going to go, and it was fine. As I said, I've been sacked a few times, but the Wyong thing, talking of politics, RJ, Wyong got very political, which I should have stayed out of. I didn't. I don't think it did me any good there. But again, we could have ended that a lot better because it was something we're good now, but it did take a while for the wound to heal. But we're good with everyone there at the as it is. But politics is everywhere. I mean, it was the same at when I went back to Norths. There was a few people going, what would you want this bloke, and we're doing this, and so I think as you get older, I probably got crankier as I got older, but I don't suffer fools as well as I once might. But you've just got to be true to yourself. I think, Rick, be true to yourself.
Clarke, I think everyone has opinions, but I think everyone respects strong and good leadership, and I think that whoever is in charge needs to be respected. They are the leader, they are the person in charge, and everyone stays within their lane, and you'll be successful. But it's when people cross out of that lane and lose that respect for whatever reason when things can go awry. But you've certainly had to navigate some off the field as well. But we'll go back to the positive things that you and your family are doing, and the Danica Clarke Foundation. Tell us when the family sat down and decided this was a legacy and a memory that we'd like to keep for Danica.
We've always been so heavily, as a family, heavily involved, in Central Coast sport. We're blessed with three very talented children. Danica with the surfing, of course. Nathan with his rugby league. Played a lot of representative footy, and Bianca with the netball. So we knew the impulse it can have on a family budget. Like I know when Nate made the Catholic Colleges team, and it was like $4,000 to get him to Adelaide. And you don't want your children to miss that. So sure. We sort of sat down with Gary Metzforth, who's our administrator. We went for lunch at the Reef. He took us out because Kerry and Gary was always the manager of a lot of Central Coast surf teams and Australian surf teams. Kez was the catering manager, so they had a very strong relationship, and we sort of sat there, and I always wanted to, I don't know, it just sort of come to me, it come to all of us that I didn't want, I don't know, I didn't want it to be in vain, because Danica was, she had an ankle injury in 2006, so she was battling to compete, but went back and coached the nippers, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s. And I remember seeing her, the little under-8 boys won a bronze medal in a relay, and I've never seen it. It was like Danica won gold at the Australian Championship.
Yeah.
It was just, and we've always, you've always sort of wanted to put back in that, and I think the area we live, as I said before, like the community just wrapped their arms around us as a family, and still are now. So to be able to, and we're very lucky to be able to continue to honour her, as I said before. But so we put it together, and people just worked their backsides off to make it happen. And then of course we went to Mingara, who were just absolutely outstanding with our first fundraiser. I think we raised $36,000. We had a full house at in the auditorium. And it's just gone from strength to strength, and the more if we could raise $1 million, I'd give $1 million away, because there's so many kids that it's like even the Frangipani grants. If we're keeping a young fella playing, he's playing footy or soccer or whatever, that's as rewarding to me as seeing our gold medalists, at an Olympic game.
It has been a fantastic, foundation, and congratulations, I'm sure, from so many people, Clarke, to you and the board, Kerry, of course. Mate, just before we go, Central Coast Rugby League, we're seeing now an influx of former NRL players, now part of the competition, which can only be good for young guys coming through. So, and you coaching the Central Coast rep team, what's your thoughts on rugby league on the Central Coast at the moment?
Oh, it's terrific to see. Jimmy Maloney, Blake Austin, Matt Moylan, Dave Fafita. I think Andrew's got back home, hasn't he? But the Marcheski brothers, Benny Thomas. It's great. It can only benefit if it's done correctly. That's a big thing there, Rick. That we're making sure that everything's sustainable. But it can only help, and especially. I know, again, we've got the James Maloney Academy that'll kick off next week with the Erimba Juniors. So James and I are doing that.
Is he a character, mate? Is he a character?
Oh, he's a champion for it. He's unbelievable. You would not, he's the most humble man I've ever met, Rick. You wouldn't believe that he was, like his resume is
pretty amazing.
I wouldn't mind one game of it. It's incredible, but he just wants to put back in.
Yeah, good.
And Blake's doing the same at Berkeleyville. And I know that the Erimba, like Dave Fafita's at every junior training session, they were telling me. So, it can only benefit, again, as long as we do it in a sustainable way. It can only benefit Central Coast footy. We've just got to get everyone on the same page. There's a lot of work to do at board level with the division, but I'm hoping that now Andrew McGyver has come in as GM. A good fella, Andrew. Just got to answer his phone a bit more. I don't know whether he's blocked me.
I hope he listens to this, Clarke.
I'll send it to him. It is an exciting time. The crowds even. The crowd yesterday up at Sawyer Park, it was great to see. A couple hundred people watching local footy. So I know that these players are going to attract a bigger crowd, which is only going to help the clubs.
Clarke, you're a good man. I remember meeting you at the Erimba RSL back in the 80s, and you've become an even better man. The man you are today has a conversation with Tony Clarke at 18 years of age. What do you say?
Work harder. Oh, Dale, I look back. And I had the opportunities. Just work harder. In what because I was probably not talking about myself, but I did have a bit of a gift for the game, but I didn't work hard enough. I went down. I could have. It's a regret. But that's. I'm hoping I'm instilling that in young guys now, because it's great to play a lot of first grade on the coast, but I'm pretty sure I could have, with a bit more hard work, I certainly could have, played at a better level.
All right, well, I think there's plenty of highlights in the coaching career of Tony Clarke, mate. It's been fantastic to have a chat to you on our Victory Wrap Sports podcast. Congratulations. You're a tremendous man. You've done some great things in rugby league and in life and helped so many people. So it's been a pleasure talking to you today, mate.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, guys, for having me on. I'm really touched.
Mate, that's the grand final, mate. We've gone 55 minutes. You beauty.
Was that all right? Oh, was that 55?
Yeah. Good on you, mate. Fantastic.
Was it all right?